What's up YouTube, Dow here from Zephyr Games, and today I am bringing you our second World Legacy deck, being pure Mekk-Knights. Now this is all about trying to tell the story of the World Legacy, but also providing you with what the decks within that story can do as pure base decks on their own. This is without the Invoked engine, without Alice the Invoker. It is all about how Mekk-Knights can destroy using just themselves. So with all of that out of the way, if you want to be seeing the deck list, if you want to be seeing the combo towards the end, then carry on watching, but more importantly than not, smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content from the channel. And trust me, we have some very special collaborations coming out very shortly as well, and you do not want to miss those because you'll actually get stuff for free from it as well. So with all of that out of the way, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into today's deck list for pure Mekk-Knights. So for the monsters, we are playing triple purple Nightfall, triple blue Sky, double indigo Eclipse, single yellow Star, single red Moon, single green Horizon, single orange Sunset, and the one Mekk-Knight Avram, followed by the one World Legacy World Armor, the triple Girsu, the Orcust Mekk-Knight, the double Nightmare Corruptor Ibli, and the triple Ash Blossom and Joyous Springs. For the spells and traps, we play triple Prosperity, triple World Legacy Scars, triple World Legacy Survivor, triple World Legacy Memory, double World Legacy Succession, one World Legacy Key, double World Legacy Secrets, and a single World Legacy Whispers. For the extra deck, we are running two Mekk-Knight of the Morningstar, alongside two Lib, the World Key Bladesmaster, and one copy of Galatea, the Orcust Automation. We then follow this up with one Link Karibo, one Link Spider, alongside one Salamangreat Almirage, one IP Masquerena, leading into one Nightmare Unicorn. Followed up with the boss level of monsters, we play the one Blackluster Soldier of Chaos, alongside one Mekk-Knight Supreme, one Appaloosa, one Mekk-Knight Avramax, and finally one Dingirsu, the Orcust of the Evening Star. So now to go into the cards in depth. So starting off with the Mekk-Knight Purple Nightfall. This is possibly the best Mekk-Knight in the entire deck, purely because it allows you to have the ability to search any of the others. So all the Mekk-Knights share the same effect, that if two or more cards are in the same column, you can special summon this card from the hand in that particular column. You can only summon the Mekk-Knights that way once per turn. Now Purple's effect is quick effect to target one Mekk-Knight monster you control, and then as cost, so then on this resolution, you get to banish it, and then add from your deck to the hand one Mekk-Knight monster from your deck except Purple Nightfall. So what makes this so good is not only does it search abilities, but it also has the ability to chain on top of cards' interactions and get rid of them so that they can no longer be negated, destroyed, and bounce them out of the way. Moving on to the second best, you've got your blue Sky. Now what makes this card so good is when it is normal or specialed, you get to add cards from your deck to your hand, or Mekk-Knights from the deck to the hand, equal to the number of cards in your opponent's column. So at the minimum, you'll only be able to search one, at maximum you're searching two. Now it is exactly what your opponent has in the column. So for example, if you only have one target left in deck, but they have 3 cards in the column you summon this to, you cannot resolve the effect. The other downside of this effect is if it does get Ghost Ogred, the way it resolves is that it's cards equal to the monsters in the current column. So if this card is no longer in the column, it cannot count the cards that are in the column to then add. So there are two little techs to be in mind of when you are resolving this card. But when you do resolve it, 9 out of 10, you'll be searching out his brother, Mekk-Knight Indigo Eclipse. Now, Indigo Eclipse has a quick effect to target a Mekk-Knight monster you control and move it to a different column than the one it is currently in. So it includes itself, but it can also move blue or purple, and this helps you with your column control of your World Legacy spells and traps, but it also gives you the ability to move cards out of the way of a column that already has 2 of your opponent's monsters in it, so that you can special summon down another Mekk-Knight. Now this is the basic trilogy engine of purple, blue and indigo that people see in invoked versions of the deck. It is the base minimum of what you need. In these particular invoke decks, you might see the odd use of Red Moon and maybe the odd use for Yellow Star, as they are the other cards that have very aggressive effects to their names that allow them to deal with problematic cards. So Red Moon allows you to banish a Mekk-Knight from the graveyard to target one monster in the same column as this card and destroy it. The monster does need to be face up. Yellow Star allows you to banish a Mekk-Knight monster from your graveyard and target a spell or trap in this card's column and destroy it. Now the reason these see less and less play is because they don't have consistency factors to them. And what we mean by that is Indigo gives you the ability to move cards out of the columns in order for you to play more Mekk-Knights to swarm the board. Blue gives you the ability to search out purple and indigo, and purple gives you the ability to get to blue. So you can kind of see how the consistent factors go around and the synergy between all of them works so seamlessly. And then red and yellow are kind of those additional cards that you might want to add in order to give you an additional edge for destruction, whether it be back row or front row. Now the next 2 cards you very rarely ever see, but because we are playing pure Mekk-Knights, we are playing the 1 green Horizon and the 1 orange Sunset. Now the reason we are playing these is because they do also count as additional names for the graveyard to complete the Scars combo, but their general effects aren't great, they're just a little bit more effective on what your opponent does. So Green Horizon is, once per turn, when an attack is declared involving this card and an opponent's monster in the same column as this card, you type 1 Mekk-Knight monster in graveyard and add it to your hand. Orange is if an opponent's card in this card's column is destroyed by battle or leaves the field, you can special summon 1 Mekk-Knight monster from your hand. So the only time you're ever going to resolve this is if you've got to put it in the zone that a linked monster is in, because at 800 attack it's probably not going to destroy anything itself. But again, they are acting as different names for the Scars combo and to keep it more pure. If you wanted to make it as highly competitive as possible and cut out cards just for the sake of cutting out cards that are less relevant or less effective to put in stuff like more hand traps, then these are probably the first 2 you would get rid of. Then for the last Mekk-Knight, we do have Avram. Now for those of you that just want a little bit of lore knowledge, as you can see that Avram and Blue Knight Blue Sky share the same armor, and that is part with the World Legacy Succession spell. That kind of helps show you the story that Blue Sky imbues his power to Avram, which is why they share the same armor, which is just a nice little interesting knowledge drop for you guys there, and it always makes the deck a little bit more fun. Avram, believe it or not, is very important for the deck because he is the normal that then gets put to the graveyard, and it has the most text I've ever seen on a Yu-Gi-Oh card. Check this out. So, you know, I mean, I wish Dark Magician had that on its board rather than, you know, best in attack and defense kind of stats. Anyway, still as important as the rest of the cards. It can be cut if you want to, but this one you actually cycle through in the combo quite easily and consistently, so it's above orange and green in my opinion. For the World Legacy card, you do play the 1 World Armor. You can play World Chalice and you can play World Crown. But the World Armor is the one that gives you the most from this particular type of deck, because the idea is you're going to send it with Gearsu, you're going to revive it with Succession, and you're going to search yourself out another World Legacy spell or trap, and that's going to allow you to not only get an additional monster on board, but also give you an additional card in your hand to help you exceed with your combos. Then let's talk about the starters of the deck, the cards that you are going to normal, the cards you are going to start everything off with. Now, obviously, the most important one, and obviously the most expensive, is Gearsu, the Orcust Mekk-Knight. Now, the reason this is so expensive is because it fits in Orcust, it fits in Mekk-Knights, it fits in Generators, and it is probably a very generally good normal summon monster. So if it is normal or special, you can send 1 Orcust or 1 World Legacy card from your deck to the graveyard. Then, if there are 2 or more other cards in this card's column, it can be treated as a tuner. If you control no other monsters, you can special summon 1 World Legacy token, Machine Dark, level 1, attack 0, defense 0 to both players' fields. So what that allows you to do is that allows you to set up a monster on your opponent's side of the field, helping you make a column, and then turn this token into a link monster instantly from your normal summon, giving you a full column to use and abuse for your entire first turn, which is what made this such a massive inclusion for the deck. Our other starter that you can use to complete the full Scars combo as well, but you will need a little bit of added extra, is Nightmare Corruptor Ibli. Now what makes this so good is the fact that all of these cards you've seen before you combine to make the lore of Yu-Gi-Oh! And technically this one comes off of Longrisu, and then of course you've got Avram, and then of course you've got Ibli or Ib as well. So the 3 originals from the World Chalice deck have some form of involvement. Now this isn't exactly Lingrisu, but it is a creation from Lingrisu himself. Regardless, Corruptor Ibli, the reason this is so good is because when you normal summon it, you could target a link monster in a graveyard to revive it, but what you're going to do is you're going to normal summon this, turn it into a link monster, and quite like what Orcus does, you're giving your opponent a monster and putting it in a column of your choosing, setting up a column for yourself. So the idea is by turning this into Almirage, you put this in your opponent's column, and then you've got your Almirage, and straight away you've completed a full column for your Mekk-Knights to be able to be summoned to. On top of that, by giving them Corruptor Ibli or by giving them a token, your opponent can no longer imperm you, they can't evenly match you, they more importantly under Ibli than under Orcus cannot Nibiru you. Plus they can't special summon unless they're going to link summon, so if you've already taken away their entire extra deck via the Scars combo, there's no way for them to play unless they play something that's just going to go Exodius, put all of my cards back from my graveyard into the deck. Which is very rare. I swear, if you play a World Chalice deck and they top deck that as their only card, record it, break it. That would be the best Yu-Gi-Oh! Top deck in the entire world. But yeah, that is why this card is so important and so powerful. Now, if you wanted to and you don't have Gearsus, you could max out on the Iblis, and you could also play Sangan. Sangan is a little bit slower because unlike Gearsu and Ibli, it needs an extender to do something for it, because you will need to be able to set a card in the column of Almirage that you would then make off of it. But what it will allow you to do is it will allow you to search out an Ash Blossom, or it will allow you to search out your Mekk-Knight Orange to help you extend further later on in the combos. It's a very good card, very useful card for the deck, but these are the best 2 options if you have them. Then for the hand traps, we've gone with Triple Ash Blossom. These are adapted to your locals. This is a flex spot that literally, depending on the locals you are attending, the matchups that you feel you're going to face, you will swap Ash Blossom out for maybe Imperms, maybe Dark Rulers, maybe even Nibirus. It is entirely up to you on what you put here. Ash Blossom is just the most generic hand trap that hits rogue, meta, you name it. Which is why, of course, we max out on it. So that's it for the deck list of monsters. Now on to the World Legacy spells, and this is where it gets really fun, in my opinion, apart from the first card. So for the first card, I do apologise. But the first card is Pot of Prosperity. Now, the reason we're playing Pot of Prosperity is because your extra deck isn't that demanding. In the sense that you, by being able to control what you banish, you've actually got a lot of flex spots or a lot of areas that you're like, right, okay, I've completed the Scars combo, great, or I'm not going to complete the Scars combo, I can actually sacrifice some of these instead. Now, if you don't have Pot of Prosperities, you can play Desires, because as you saw, you play a lot of one-offs. Sorry, not a lot of one-offs, a lot of three-offs. So losing some of the one-offs aren't the end of the world, because you still have cards in your extra deck. Technically, you have 3 Mekk-Knights in your extra deck that you can burn through to put them into the graveyard to then be banished. So all you then need to do to complete your Scars combo is get 5 Mekk-Knights from the main deck, which can be your purple, your indigo, your blue, plus you then have Avramax alongside with your Gear Suit as well. So you do have other cards to get to. Pot of Prosperity is just the more consistent, and if you're going all in for this deck, this is the card you need to play. If you're like, right, okay, I don't have Prosperities, but I still want to play the deck, then Desires is a good option for you. Or you can actually put any 3 cards in the deck that you want, because the deck's own technical version of Prosperity is the World Legacy Survivor. Now, this card is actually insanely good. So you excavate the top 5 cards of your deck, and then if you do, you get to add 1 excavated Crawler monster or World Legacy card to your hand. You then send the rest to the graveyard. So what makes this card so good is it allows you to search, and I'll just give you a quick preview, is it allows you to search any of these World Legacy cards, technically. But on top of that, if you were to excavate some of your Mekk-Knights, maybe your orange, maybe your Avram, maybe even your green, you can just send them to the graveyard. So straight away, you've already Foolish Burialed a couple of cards, setting up your Scars play as well. So it's actually a very, very good double pot of prosperity in the sense you get to search one of the top 5, but then you also get to mill. Now the only downside is it's a once per turn, but if you do not excavate a crawler or a world legacy, all the cards go back into the deck. So you're not negging that way, and it can be a little bit disappointing if you excavate loads of world legacies but no Mekk-Knights. But it's still a very good card and is a very close alternative to prosperity in this deck, which gives you another 3 flex spots on prosperity to whether you want it to be 2 desires, whether you want to put in ghost ogres, DD crows, droplets, anything like that. Dark Rulers No More is not bad in this deck as well because you actually want the columns. So turning off your opponent's monsters is just as fine to keep them on the board, use and abuse them as different columns, and then clear them off. Even though you're not going to do damage, if you clear them off and then do a Scars combo, they're going to be left with pretty much nothing. Speaking of the Scars combo, you do play triple World Legacy Scars. You could arguably play less than this because you do search it throughout the combo, but it is one of them cards that if you already open it up, it just allows you to search out your other World Legacy cards. So throughout the combo, you won't actually see a search World Legacy Secrets, Whispers, Memories, or World Legacy Survivor. So if you already open up Scars, you can then of course search those cards out, which is why you still maximize at free Scars because seeing it is not the end of the world. All Mekk-Knight monsters on the field gain 300 attack and defense. Once per turn, you can discard 1 Mekk-Knight monster or World Legacy card to draw 1 card. Now, obviously, this clashes with Prosperity, but it is not the end of the world because you can choose not to activate this effect, or if you don't play Prosperity, you don't really care, you can play something like Pinpoint Landing, and this technically allows you to get an additional draw, while also putting a Mekk-Knight in the graveyard for the secondary, or technically the 3rd, Scars effect, which is you can banish 8 Mekk-Knight monsters with different names from your graveyard and or face up from the field. Send your opponent's entire hand and extra deck to the graveyard. Now, like I said, unless you're top decking Exodius, that is pretty much going to win you the game. Now, the deck isn't only focused on Scars or Bust, because the Mekk-Knights themselves still produce a very powerful go second board, and if you're not trying to flood your graveyard with Mekk-Knights because you're going second, you can actually flood your board with Mekk-Knights and Link Climb to start non-targeted shuffling, or just creating a big boss monster to clear off your opponent's board. Then continuing on the World Legacies, we've got triple World Legacy Memories. This allows you to special summon a Mekk-Knight from your hand or deck, but you return it to the hand during the end phase. So chances are you're going to special summon out your Mekk-Knight purple. You're going to use purple's effect to banish itself to add you a blue or an indigo, and then you would have already done this. Doing this specifically, you would have set up columns to then special summon them down. If you open up multiples, what you can do is set it, activate it during your opponent's turn, and then you banish out a purple, and purple will give you another search, setting you up for future plays and OTKs. Now, they are hard once per turns, but again, because you have ways of discarding them, because you have ways of using them during both your turn and your opponent's, it is not the end of the world to open up multiples. We've then got double World Legacy Succession. You're going to search this. It is a consistent Monster Reborn, reviving a card to a zone alien monster points to. Now, obviously, the most go-to play with this card is you're going to set it off of Lib, and then Lib is then going to activate it to bring back the World Armor. The last one we have is the World Legacy Key. It's actually quite important for the combo because you activate this and then you get to add back your purple Nightfall to the hand, which gives you discard fodder for your later on combos involving Mekk-Knight Morningstar. Also, you negate any opponent's trap effects that activate in the same column as a Mekk-Knight you control. So the best thing about Legacy Key is alongside Secrets and Whispers, you have the ability to pretty much control your opponent's monsters, spells and traps. And if you are able to control the board or move the board around consistently, you're going to be able to turn off all of the threats your opponent might try and provide and give you much, much, much less to worry about, which just makes it beautiful. Then for the traps, of course, we do play the 2 World Legacy Secrets and the 1 World Legacy Whispers. So coming off of the back of the World Legacy Key, the World Legacy Whispers is, when this card is activated, you get to target a level 5 or higher monster on the field, and it gains 1000 attack and defense until the end of the turn. It's a bit meh, but the secondary effect negates any opponent's spell effects that activate in the same column as a Mekk-Knight monster you control. So again, you're just going to be able to control and set your opponent down. It's a little bit more difficult to control this particular aspect of the spells, purely because your opponent can, unlike traps, you can put your Mekk-Knight cards in the zones that the traps are set into, so making it a lot harder for your opponent to deal with. Whereas spells, it's more your opponent that is in control of where they play that spell, so they can technically try and play around this or dodge it as much as they can. Now, where you have ways of actually controlling your opponent in that route is where World Legacy Secrets comes in. Because World Legacy Secrets, when it is activated, you target a level 5 or higher in your graveyard and special summon it. When a card or effect, when that card leaves the field, destroy this card. But you get to negate an opponent's monster effect that activates in the same column as a Mekk-Knight monster you control. So the idea is that what you do is you get to use Indigo Eclipse. Indigo Eclipse can be revived off of Secrets to negate in one column, and then you can move Indigo into another column and negate there again. So it's very important to control your opponent that route, which is what makes this deck so good, is it's got the ability to scars them, it's got the ability to control them, but it also has the ability to OTK them as well. What more could you possibly want from a World Legacy deck? So that is it for the main deck. Now let's move on to the extra deck. And the extra deck has a lot of power plays and spice as well. So we start off with, of course, our double Mekk-Knight Morningstar. So this requires 2 monsters, including at least a 1 Mekk-Knight monster. And what this one allows you to do is when it is, or if this card is Link Summon specifically, you get to discard a Mekk-Knight monster or World Legacy card and then add a World Legacy card from your deck to your hand. So that gives you instant access to any World Legacy that you may not have in your hand, any World Legacy you may need in your hand, or any World Legacy that is going to help you extend your plays even further, whether that be Survivor to do a little bit of digging, or whether that be Scars to pretty much complete the combo and then rip your opponent's entire hand and extra deck apart. It also has additional effects that you can only apply the effect once per turn, but if your Mekk-Knight monster battles an opponent's monster in a different column, your monster can't be destroyed by battle and you take no battle damage. So it's also a nice little thing that a lot of people forget of, that technically your Mekk-Knights can crash to another monster in a different column and not die and not take battle damage. So it's kind of like if your opponent has a 2000 monster on board and you've got a 2000 Mekk-Knight on board in a different column, you attack, their monster dies, yours doesn't. So, very, very cool. Then, of course, we do play the double Lib, the World Keyblade Master. Again, this card is absolutely awesome. So, requires 2 monsters, nice and generic. But it can only be Link Summoned while you have a World Legacy card in your graveyard. Now, you've seen the amount of World Legacy spells we play, and of course, Armor, which is going to be the more consistent one being put in the graveyard. So during your main phase, you can set 1 World Legacy spell or trap directly from your deck. It cannot be activated this turn while you have no World Legacy monsters in your graveyard. Now, obviously, you are going to have that, so you're going to be absolutely fine. If this Link Summon card is sent from the sent to the graveyard as Link material, you can shuffle 1 card on the field into the deck. Now, a way you make this a disruptive card is, if you're going first, is you actually make this card plus IP Masquerena, and then during your opponent's turn, you can turn IP Masquerena plus Lib into a near indestructible, untouchable Mekk-Knight Avramax, and you get to non-target spin a card off of Lib's effect. So it's beautiful. We've then got the 1 Galatea, the Orcus Automation. Now, this is a little bit more difficult to make because it specifically does require your Orcus Gearsu, but when you do make her, you're ideally just going to link on top and go into Ding to then non-target send and provide your board with protection from destruction. So it's very important on this one as well, is if you've been able to bait out, for example, your opponent's Dragoon, you can then have the ability to make Galatea. Galatea will then go into Ding to non-target send it. So this is just one of those odd scenarios of being able to out problematic boards, and this is one of the best cards to do so. Continuing on with the rest, we'll go back to our Link ones now. So we do have the 1 Almirage to turn, ideally, you're going to be turning your Corrupted Ibli off of it into this one. Obviously, if you don't want to do this, you can play a Secure Gardener as well, because Secure Gardener can turn Lib into it and give you a free spin for pretty much nothing. You've got your Link Karibo, part of the combo, you're going to turn your token into this. Link Spider, you're going to turn Avram or your token into this as well. So all important to help the combos exceed, help the combos go further forward, and pretty much help you with your full Scars play. You've then, of course, got your 1 IP Masquerena, which 9 times out of 10 is probably going to go into a Nightmare Unicorn. And like I said, if you were to just use IP Masquerena, and rather than going with Lib into Avramax, you go Lib into Unicorn, you then have the ability to non-target spin, and then you've got another one to discard and spin as well. Then for your other Link 3s, you've got your BLS, which is technically just a boss monster that is incredibly hard to deal with, especially if you're going to make him off the back of IP Masquerena as well. Then you've got your Mekk-Knight Supreme. This card is nuts. So it does require specifically 2 plus more Mekk-Knights, which isn't as hard to achieve as you might think. But this card can attack directly if it's the only card in its column. If this card in the extra monster zone points to no monsters, it cannot be destroyed by card effect. Also, your opponent cannot target it with card effects. You can send one other card you control to the in this card's column to the graveyard to special summon a Mekk-Knight from your deck in defense position. Now, again, what makes this card so good is you could actually bring an Indigo, even if an Indigo is in its zone, or even if a Indigo is on the board and a monster is in its zone, use Indigo's effect to move that monster, and then he's free to attack directly. So then what you're able to do is you're able to pretty much just attack directly with this, but then also attack with Indigo and your other monsters as well. Then you've got your full-on defensive in Appaloosa and your full-on balance between defense and offense in, of course, Crusadia Avramax. Either one of these could be a Borrow Sword, they could be an access code as well if you wanted to. It's entirely up to you on whether you have access to them and the power plays you want to go for. I would highly advise keeping the Avramax. The two flex spots for those boss monsters, in my opinion, would be BLS and Appaloosa, because there's no need for an Appaloosa if your opponent has no extra deck and no hand. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is that for the full pure Mekk-Knight Scars World Legacy deck, whatever you want to call it. Seriously, I wouldn't say I slept on this deck, but I always used to go for the default Mekk-Knight Invoked. And I have massively learnt my lesson from that, because the pure Mekk-Knights actually put in a heck of a lot of work. And I really, really enjoy pure Mekk-Knights as well. I think that they're really, really fun. I think that they catch a lot of people off guard. And the Scars combo is just incredibly powerful. Like, I can't believe... Not that... I mean, the Scars combo has been around for a long, long time. But I just can't believe that... like, a lot of people might turn their nose up and go, Scars combo, ugh, hand rip, whatever. And like I said at the start, which is completely fine, but keep in mind that the Mekk-Knights don't have to just do that hand rip. The Mekk-Knights can actually do a heck of a lot more, which is what makes them so good and so fun to play. So now I'm going to show you the 2-card Scars combo and how you're going to decimate your opponent's extra deck and hand using this deck in front of you. So now I'm going to show you the 2-card Scars combo. It can vary because you do have other ways to get a Purple Nightfall in the form of World Legacy Memories, and you don't have an exact replica for Girsu, but you do have stuff like Corrupted Ibli, and that will then dictate that you need more cards in your hand to complete the combo, but this is the most direct version that gets you the full combo without having to go over or through too many hoops. So, you start off by normal summoning your Girsu, and you're going to trigger Girsu's effect to send from your deck to the graveyard a World Legacy. Now, obviously, the card you want to send is going to be your World Legacy World Armor, because that is going to come in a much help as we go further through the combo. You're then going to produce 2 tokens, one for yourself, one for your opponent. The one you give your opponent you want to put in front of your link zone. The link zone you use needs to be the opposite side to the Girsu, because then that keeps your link zones completely free. You're then going to turn your token into a Link Karibo, which instantly gives you a full column here because you'll have the token on your opponent's side of the field. So what you get to do is special summon down your Purple Nightfall and then banish said Purple Nightfall to get you your Blue Sky. You will then special summon your Blue Sky into the same column, triggering his effect to get you an Indigo Eclipse. Then from here, what you want to do is you want to link your blue and your Link Karibo together for Lib. And by doing so, because you already have a World Legacy in the graveyard, she will then trigger to search you a World Legacy card, or technically set one. So that is going to set you your World Legacy Succession. You will trigger your World Legacy Succession to bring back your World Legacy World Armor to, of course, the zone that Lib points to. Triggering the World Legacy Armor's effect to search you out another World Legacy, and this time you're going to be searching yourself out a World Legacy Key. Wherever it is, there we go. And want to make sure that it goes in the same column. It's very important that it goes in the column of your link zone, because you are going to be sending it off with the Supreme later on. So you're going to activate the key, and what this does is once it's activated, you target one of your banished and you get to add it back to your hand. So you get to add back your Purple Nightfall. Now you can't special summon it, but it's important to have a Mekk-Knight in the hand for the plays going forward. So now you've got a couple of options here. You can just use Girsu as it counts as a Mekk-Knight alongside your Ib to make you your Morning Star. But what we're also going to do here is we're going to special summon down the Eclipse. Use Eclipse plus Lib and you're going to go into your Morning Star. And then Morning Star's effect will then trigger. So what this will allow you to do is it requires... when it is linked on, you get to discard one Mekk-Knight monster or World Legacy card and then add a World Legacy card from your deck to your hand. So you can only use the effect once per turn, which is perfectly fine. So you're going to send your purple because you can't really do a lot with it right now. And this is going to add you your World Legacy Scars, which is your field spell. Now obviously throughout this combo, if you've already opened up Succession, you already opened up Key or Scars, then you get to add a different one to your hand, which will allow you to add your World Legacy Secrets for Disruption, your Survivor to dig for more if you want to, and then of course you can also go for your Memories for an additional Mekk-Knight. Now the only plus side of going for the Survivor is the Survivor can actually excavate cards into the graveyard, meaning you need to burn through your extra deck less, but it is a bit risky because you haven't guaranteed the stack at the top of your deck. So Scars is going to go into the field zone. And then what you're going to do from here is you're then going to use Gear Suit plus your Morningstar because it is a Mekk-Knight. And you're going to go into your Mekk-Knight Supreme. Now by doing that, your Supreme of course is in the same column as Key. And what Supreme can do is it allows you to send one other card you control in this card's column to the graveyard to special summon a Mekk-Knight. So you're going to send the World Legacy Key, and what you want to summon out is your Mekk-Knight Avram. Now you can special summon out anything, it's entirely up to you, but a shout out to Slim Yugioh, what you get to do here is you get to turn Avram into, of course, your Link Spider, and then you can turn Link Spider and Supreme into your Avramax. Now at this point, you've actually got a really cool board, and keep in mind you're still going to have 3 cards in your hand. Now at current in your graveyard, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So all you need is 1 more to complete the full Scars lock. So 2 options here. If you have a Mekk-Knight in your hand, you can discard it for your World Legacy Scars to draw a card. But because we don't, all you need to do is get this guy to the graveyard. Now you could use it generally right away without worries. But of course by doing so, that then means that you're going to be banishing him from the field. So you don't actually get to leave anything on the board. Whereas if you do it this way and link these 2 together, yes, you're going to banish your Avramax, but it will give you the ability for a Mekk-Knight Morningstar. Now, obviously, if you can trigger his effect, great. If not, no worries. It still gives you a defensive play. And then you banish all 8 of these, all with different names, and you send your opponent's entire hand and their extra deck to their graveyard, meaning they just aren't going to play the game. You're still going to have 3 more random cards in your hand. The chances are they could either be an additional Mekk-Knight, they could be an additional summon, they could be an additional spell or trap, which is going to allow you to either improve on this board or enable you to leave your Avramax on the board and send something different to the graveyard, so that your board would then be Avramax plus your World Legacy Armor, and again, your opponent is only going to be able to play with their top deck. So if you're able to extend this board even further and able to set up a negate, even better, because then you're going to be able to stop the first thing your opponent tries to play. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a very, very simple 2-card combo to get you into the full Scars, hand rip, and extra deck rip combo. Now, what makes this deck so much better than just a generic hand rip deck is the fact that it can actually play on different resources. The whole deck isn't circled around making this combo. The combo is that powerful and it is that important, but if you can't resolve the combo, you still have the ability to resolve the Mekk-Knight OTK, you still have the ability to link climb higher, you still have the ability to set up a very simple secrets lock with your Mekk-Knight, and keep in mind that the key and the whispers, along with the secrets, allows you to negate any spell, trap, or monster effect that activates in the same column as a Mekk-Knight. It is just that cool. It's hard to believe. But that is it for the profile. That was it for the combo. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I went into enough detail so that you can understand the deck, pick it up, build it, trial it online, and then come back to me with any questions that you may have. But with all of that out of the way, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and more important than not, stay safe and happy dueling.